Hey, go ahead and let me know where you're tuning in from. I see Chris from Oklahoma's in. Hi, Carla. Margie says it's been snowing all day. She's, I think, in Wisconsin. Luckily for you, Margie, you're coming down to Florida in a couple weeks for our retreat, so that's going to be awesome. Hi, everybody. All right. So we're here for another live chat. This is live chat number 3 for the Charlie Bomber Jacket class. And I keep wanting to look up here, but I think the camera face is down here. So my apologies if I'm not looking at you right in the face. Okay. Hi, Margie. Hi, everybody. Ooh. Okay, we got somebody from Gainesville, like in Gainesville, Florida, like here near where I live. That's awesome. Minnesota, it's snowing. EJ says there's no snow in Pennsylvania, but they're supposed to get ice on Tuesday. It is like right now it's so warm here that I was about to turn on the air conditioning in my studio before this live chat. That's how hot it is here already. We've been working outside. Hey, Liz. Liz is tuning in from the UK. Awesome. Deborah from Port St. Lucie, another Florida neighbor. Hi there. Beverly says that she's starting on her ribbing. Do I need a special zipper stop? So the zipper stop, and you can find them a bunch of different sizes and different ways. The little pack that I bought, I got off of Amazon. I think I've already linked you guys to it in the course page to where you can get it. Sometimes they come in different sizes. And most often I have found like the actual nickel-plated metal ones like this. And they can come really small, kind of medium size, and like really, really big chunky ones for bigger zippers. Because for this jacket, we use a size 5 zipper. I find that either the smaller, the medium ones work. I tried it before with one that was super, super teensy, and it didn't work. I was able to just pull the zipper pull right off. And what I noticed was that if the little stop itself is smaller than the teeth that you're using right there, it might just fly off. Okay, so I would say try it on one side, like install one, like how I show you in the video where I do one, and then you kind of measure on the opposite side to measure like how many little teeth you need to take off so that they're both equal on either side of the zipper. Leave the other plastic stop there so you can try this. If you see that it starts to want to go past it, then you know that's probably not going to work. And you can also just take them off by peeling them back with the same pliers that you use to clamp them down into place. Okay. All right. So EJ says she misplaced the zipper for her grandson's jacket. She ordered a new one. She's going to post a picture when she gets it. I just want to say I am so proud of y'all. All the pictures that y'all have been posting on the Facebook group, if you're in it. If you're not on Facebook, I say this at the beginning of my clubs and courses. I think it's worth it to create a Facebook account just so you have access to whatever the group is for the course or class or club that you're signing up for. Because the images, the motivation, the enthusiasm from other members in your course or club that you sign up for is totally worth it so that you're getting more value for the price that you pay for the course. Because you get ideas of jackets that people have completed that you look at it and you'll be like, I love that jacket, but maybe you would have never been able to match up those colors or those fabrics on your own. And now you gain a little bit more confidence, right? To try that on your own project. Like, oh, I absolutely love these colors. And I didn't think that I would like them together. And now by seeing somebody else having done it, it's just invaluable. All right. Hi, Nikki Reed, all the way from Australia. Hi, Andra. Some of y'all are getting ready to go to QuiltCon, aren't you? QuiltCon, for those that don't know, is kind of the national kind of convention and show for the Modern Quilt Guild. And this year it's in Tennessee, Nashville, maybe. Hi, April. Andra's getting ready to head out to QuiltCon. Laura says, I love the encouragement when I post my pictures. I have no self-confidence when I sew. And I find that this is very common because I think since sewing is such a solitary craft, there's kind of no feedback right there as you're doing it. You know, if you're taking a class with 25 people and the instructor's walking around and kind of touching base with you, you feel like you have a little bit more guidance, right? Like, okay, double check, make sure I'm doing it right. But when it's you by yourself sewing, you don't have anybody there to stop you and say, no, wait, you're about to do that wrong. Or, oh, that looks really good, to kind of keep the motivation going. So I feel like social media for that in crafts and different hobbies and things that we make is awesome because you can post one picture and depending on the time of day or night that you post a picture, In 5 minutes, you might have a ton of thumbs ups and a ton of positive comments from people posting. They're saying, "Oh my gosh, I love your fabric choices. Looks great, great work," and that just helps to motivate us, right? We always need that little bit of enthusiasm to help us keep going and saying like, okay, it looks good to me, but I'm not too sure if this is how it's supposed to be. As soon as a handful of people tell you it looks awesome, even if it had little mistakes, and I notice that a lot of you do that too, you'll say, it's not perfect, but I like it. It's fine that it's not perfect. We rarely will make projects that are absolutely perfect, but I don't think we do this because we're trying to seek perfection or to enter our projects in shows to win prizes based on how perfect the project was. We do this for fun, right? It's a hobby. You want to enjoy the whole process, and then you get to show off something that you made on your body, okay? Or on somebody else's body, and you can say like, oh, that little jacket? Yeah, I made that. Andra, I'm glad to hear this. Let me read it to y'all. She says, I'm proud to say I traced my pattern and didn't die. I told you weren't going to die. She's also similar to me on Team Cut It Out. We like to just hack right into the pattern and cut it, but I kept telling her it's totally worth it. You can make this pattern for a bunch of people. Don't cut the pattern, Andra. Don't do it. So I'm glad to hear that you traced the pattern and you didn't die, girl. Oh, Sasha So is from Ontario. Hey. April says, OMG, I thought I was going to die. It's true. And a lot of this stuff is like a mental block that we give ourselves. We do it to ourselves because that's how I was. I'm like, Team Cut It Out. If I'm buying, say, a big four, like a commercial sewing pattern at Joann's, and they're on sale for $1.99, in my head, here is how I justify it. $1.99 is not that much. My time is worth more. So if I'm going to trace this pattern out, I'm going to spend a lot more time than $1.99 worth. So I would often just buy 2 patterns. One so I can have the intact original, and the other one so I can hack right into it and cut out the size that I was going to make. And that's just how I would do it. So when you look at the Jolie patterns, and if you're in this class, hopefully you've already looked at the pattern at least. Remember, there's no rush to make the jacket. You don't have to be catching up with us. As a matter of fact, it's kind of helpful for those of you that are still maybe deciding on fabrics, on color choices, on what to use, and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of cool to see the finished garments of other students. So you know, oh, okay, the classes must work. The videos must be legit because people have already been able to make it. So if you need a little bit of that help, you know that it's already been tried and true, right? So the Jolie patterns, and we sell them for what, $12 on our website in 27 different sizes. The regular, say I buy a simplicity pattern at Joann's for even $1.99, it's going to have, 3 to 6 sizes in there. Small, medium, large XL to XL, something like that. Maybe a size, 8 to 14. It's not going to have 27 different sizes in there. So $12 for me for 27 different sizes is totally worth a couple minutes. I mean, it doesn't even take you 30 minutes to trace it all out. And remember that I started you guys off, for those of you that signed up for this class, there's only 8 pattern pieces to make a jacket. When you show people a jacket that you made, if you have done it already, you already know. People are like, there's no way you made that, because it looks like such an involved project with welt pockets and a zipper. But as we all know, a little secret between us, 8 pattern pieces, this thing whips up super quickly, okay? Ooh, Phyllis is asking, are the colored zippers posted on the website? No, I'm terrible. I haven't been able to post them yet, but that is on my to-do list for today, tomorrow. So between today and tomorrow, we have a business meeting tonight. I have a couple other things I need to get done, and then the plan is to get those posted. For those that don't know, I have ordered some different colored zippers. They're all in the 22-inch length, right? Most the adult sizes, but if you want to make it for a kid and you want to use one of the colored zippers, you can always cut them down just like I show you how to do in the video lesson, right? So there's a bunch of different colors, and I will be posting those hopefully either tonight or tomorrow, Phyllis. Thank you for the reminder. Carla says, I finished mine yesterday. Oh, girl, you got to post a picture. We got to see it. We have to see it. Hi, Tamra from freezing Chicago. I'm sure it's freezing over there. Actually, I'm going to be going to Chicago at the end of April. A girlfriend and I are just taking like a girls trip up there. And I'm going to meet up with my friend Sarah Lawson from Sew Sweetness. She's going to take us to some local quilt shops in the area. And then a friend of mine, Allison, is like co-owner of a yarn shop in Chicago called Knit One. And if you follow me on social media, you know I'm currently obsessed with knitting and yarn. And so I'm definitely going to make a stop at her place, at her shop, to check that out. So Carla says she made her jacket entirely with a ballpoint needle. So let me see. Oh, Liz says she's going to start hers after she gets back from QuiltCon. Wow. So she's coming all the way to the US from the UK to go to QuiltCon. That is so awesome, Liz. I hope you have a great time. V, I think is Victoria. She says, will I necessarily need to use zipper stops if I'm using a 22-inch zipper? So yes, and I think I talk about this, and I do talk about this in the class. It's going to depend on which size jacket you're making, because even though the Jali pattern tells you, hey, for all these sizes, like it says what? Sizes S through FF, which is size S is, I think it's almost the smallest adult size. S. It's starting at size 6 for adults all the way to the double FF size. It says 22-inch zipper, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to cut some teeth off. Remember, you still have to do it. And so I mentioned in the video, like you might end up with more teeth needing to be taken off of the zipper or less depending on the size that you're making, because from S size 6 to a size 22 there's a big difference, and there's difference in the length also as far as the height of the front panels. So it depends on which one you're making. If you are making size Z like I am, then I can probably tell you, I think I still on size Z, I think I took off, I think 2 or 3 teeth off of a size 22 zipper. So it depends, okay? If you're making a larger size, you probably won't have to take that many off. But if you're making a smaller size, then you probably won't have to take any. You know, it just depends on what the pattern size is, okay? Beverly says, I like your quilt square that looks like mushrooms. It is. This is my little paper piece block that I designed years ago called Mod Mushrooms, like little modern, funky little mushrooms. All right. Deborah's asking if I have the reversible zippers. So you remember when I mentioned that we had put in a huge order? We ordered like 200 of these reversible zippers, and I waited like a week. I called. They didn't answer. I called 2 weeks later, and the lady said that they were back ordered, and she didn't even know when they would come in. So I was like, you can't tell me 3 weeks or 8 weeks. And she said, no, she had no idea. So I just got a refund for my money back. And so I have it on my calendar to call back and inquire and see if they have any in, but they were backlogged from the manufacturer, like from YKK who makes them. There were the reversible black zippers in 22-inch length were just like, they don't have them, which totally was a bummer, because I only had a few. I had ordered 20 last year to try them out and see how they were and everything. And so we finished selling those. Okay. So if I do get my hands on them, for sure, you guys will be the first to know. I'll send out an email. Susan says she likes my top. Thanks. This is a Westchester Dolman top that clearly has not even been pressed. I pulled this straight out of the dryer and threw it on. This is made from 95% cotton, 5% spandex. This is I think it's a print from Timeless Treasures, and it's a good weight. It's like the similar quality to the Robert Kaufman cotton spandex, cotton lycra blend. They feel a lot better than like what you'll find at Joann's for cotton spandex. Those are like a lot thinner. This is like, has really good stretch return, and it holds its shape. I have one that's like orange and blue, and I promise you it's been washed more than like, you probably seen me wear it. The other Westchester Dolman top that I have that's like orange and funky, like geometric print, it's a Carolyn Friedlander print. And I have watched that shirt, no lie, over 100 times. And it still looks the bomb, and it's just as comfy. So this was a Westchester Dolman. I didn't have that much fabric, so I didn't make it 3/4 sleeves, and I didn't want them super short, so I just made them a little bit longer, just a little more coverage on my chunky arms. So that worked out good. Oh, Audrey says I like the orange and blue one. Yeah, I wear that one all the time. All right, Linda's asking, do you oil your Juki DX7? I recently purchased one, and I don't see anything in the manual for oiling it. Do you have a demo on it? So, as far as I know, the computerized machines are self-oiling machines. So I don't have to oil it. The idea is that if you are getting your machines regular service, every year supposedly you should do it, they will handle any of the internal stuff that needs to go on there. So you can ask your sewing machine tech that you take your machine to be serviced at. But as far as like the home sewer, the computerized machines, all the ones that I've had in the past, are all self-oiling. So like the Juki 2010Q, which is not a computerized machine, this baby, if you have it, you know it guzzles oil. If you use it a lot and use it all the time for free motion quilting or for piecing and stuff like that, and I'll show you, it's that one. It's a semi-industrial machine, okay? So it's just a high-powered 1,500 stitches per minute straight stitch machine. This guy needs to be oiled here and here and here and here. Like it has all these spots where I oil it. And I oil it quite a bit. Sorry for covering the camera. Because it guzzles oil. Okay? So on the mechanical machines, yes. On my computerized machines, I do not oil them. I take them to Tim. And he does it. All right. All right. Tamara says, I love that pattern. Not too big of sleeves. My Westchester Dolman top. It's a super fun pattern. I've been noticing on Instagram a lot of people have been making them lately and posting them using that hashtag. So if that's something that you want to try out, maybe just to make like a knit t-shirt top like this stretch, especially after you tried the jacket. If you've worked already with the double knits that's a little bit more stable and you saw that it wasn't that big of a deal to stitch with, especially if you were able to sew in stretchy ribbing, you could totally make this top. This is for super, super beginners. I have a free 7-part video series on how to make it. And you just do a search on Instagram or on Facebook for Westchester Dolman top, and you'll see all the pictures of different shirts that people have made using the same free pattern. Okay? All right. Okay. Carla says she thought the shirt was orange and gray. It's kind of like a pale bluish gray color. All right. Ooh, Audrey says she's made a couple of the Westchester Dolmans and she gave them to her sister. Cool. All right. My sewing machine, Elizabeth's asking, where's my sewing machine guy located? He's about 2 hours south of me in Mount Dora, Florida. That's where my sewing machine guy is located. Now, I wanted to ask y'all a couple questions. For those of you that have completed, raise your hand out there in cyberspace. If you've completed the unlined version of your Charlie Bomber jacket. What I want to know is leave me a comment here in the chat. Let me know what type of fabric did you use for your jacket? So if you didn't buy a kit from me, obviously if you bought a kit from me, you probably either use a French terry and the quilted knit and Liverpool for the body. Oh, that's cute. Andre used the, I forgot that there's little emojis that you guys can use to raise your hand. So Carla Lisa's raising her hand. Andra Walker's raising her hand. Andra, have you posted pictures of your finished jacket? I want to see it. I bet that thing looks amazing. All right. So April's asking, I'm using a stretch needle. Should I change it after I'm done with this jacket? If it was me personally and you use the needle and it didn't give you any problems throughout the jacket, I would probably leave it if I was making another 1 or 2 more jackets or set it aside for a similar project. If you already know it didn't give you problems, your machine liked it and it was fine. They typically say to change your sewing machine needle about every 8 hours of sewing. This project does not include 8 hours of stitching time. So I would save it just because I'm cheap, but yeah. So Carla says she used a light French terry from Girl Charlie that she got years ago. So a light French terry. So I want to see that one to see in the difference, right? If you're using a lighter knit versus a heavier double knit. I saw, was it April that's making it out of like a scuba knit? She says it was a monster to sew. Was that you, April? Go ahead and chime in so we can read your comments. I think she used like a thick scuba fabric, was it? Something that looked like the neoprene kind of fabric. So that's a big difference from a light French terry. So that's why I want to know, what kind of is your experience based on the fabrics that y'all used. All right. All right, so let's see. We have a question here from Sasha Sois in Canada. I'm behind on the last set of videos, but in the videos, I saw that you're using a straight stitch and not a stretchy stitch. I know that's simpler, but aren't we risking popped stitches? So I was kind of interested to see that too when I saw that in the instructions. That's what it's called for, is for the straight stitch. So on the Jali group that I'm in, I saw that people were using the straight stitch and nobody had any problems with skip stitches. And so I did a little bit more research on that when I first started making the jacket. I made one with stretch. I made one with straight stitches, and I wanted to see what was the reasoning behind this. So it turns out, and this is pretty common in the industry, I think, like for home sewers, if you're working with a stable knit, that you can get away with using just a straight stitch. Obviously not a long straight stitch, which is more like a basting stitch. Then pretty much any pull on that is going to pop those stitches. But it's the combination of using more stable knits and an outerwear project. Because this is not a t-shirt like this, I would not use a straight stitch to make a Westchester Dolman top because it's a t-shirt that I'm pulling over my head. The neckband is getting stretched. This right here, if I went like this and it was straight stitch, all the stitches would just pop, okay? On the shoulders here, you see how snug it is to the body. Along the sides here, the snugness to the body, if you pull it on and you kind of yank on it, it's going to pop the stitches if you're using just a straight stitch for the most part. Now, keep in mind, you can be working on a project that uses stretch fabric. You can be working on a project that is form-fitting, and you could still stitch it with straight stitches and get away with it if, let's say, the pattern, excuse me, is designed to fit snug, but you size up and make it a little bit looser on your body. Now the difference there is going to be that you're not really stretching it as much as you would be if it fit you as tight as it was designed to fit you. Does that make sense? So because this is a jacket, there's really no stretching anywhere on here aside from the ribbing. And because we're pulling and stretching the ribbing fabric as we stitch, that's why it's able to then stretch after the fact without popping stitches also. So does that make sense? Everything else is loose fitting because it's a jacket. So you're not putting the same amount of stress that you would on stretch knit seams if this was a more fitted garment. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. As far as the collar stuff, that's what I was saying. Remember that we pull the fabric and stitch it? So then because of the spandex in it, it bounces back to life, but we're still able to take it back to the point of how we stretched it to sew it because we originally had stretched it that far to sew. So that is how we're able to get away with a straight stitch on this. So I think it's important to not just to think, oh, it's stretchy fabric, you have to use a stretch stitch. Or it's not stretchy fabric and you have to use a straight stitch. I want you to think more along the lines of what kind of wear and tear the finished garment is going to make. Am I going to be stretching the seams? Is this a leotard for a gymnast? I would never do a straight stitch in that instance because that is a super body fitting, form fitting garment. Okay. But if it's like a loose peplum cardigan, even if I'm using stretchy fabric, you can get away with straight because you're not going to put that stress on it to pop them. But of course, if you're a little paranoid, then feel free to do a stretch stitch also. Just know that, you know, anytime you do zigzag instead of straight, it's going to take like 3 times as long because it goes and then it's takes forever. Okay? All right. Awesome. Okay, so Andrea's going to post a picture of her jacket. Donna Church says she used Liverpool. Good. Oh, April is the one. I knew it. She said she used all scuba. Oh, girl, I cannot even imagine. But this is great for people to see because if you're making this for someone, say you take your granddaughter or a niece or someone to the store and they say, I want this fabric, and you see that it's scuba, having seen April's already, you'll know what the look of it is going to be, how the body of the jacket is going to be a lot fluffier, a lot thicker, a lot warmer also because of the fabric, right? And any problems that she has, she's letting us know that it was a monster to sew through. So you might want to try and steer them away from that type of fabric, okay? And I was talking so much that now. Okay, let's see. All right, so Phyllis used my fabric because she bought several kits. Thank you. Tamara says she used Liverpool and have it done up to add the lining, waiting impatiently for those videos. Okay. No worries. They're coming. Remember that the videos for the lined version will be posted on Friday to your accounts. Okay. This coming Friday, the 22nd. Deborah's asking, what would you think about making that jacket without the ribbing around the sleeves or waistband? So that's totally doable. I'm glad that you mentioned sleeves and waistband and not the collar also, because I would definitely say leave it in the collar because you need it. Otherwise, you know, any other type of collar that you might do, you'd have to know exactly what you're doing to draft one. Unless you want it, you know, something that sticks up or whatever. It just has a really nice flat laying collar in the collar part. On the waistband, I mean, on the sleeves here, you can just skip it. Make sure though, if you're using obviously the same pattern, that you add the length to your pattern piece of what the finished length should be. Okay, so that you're not cutting it just as it was designed, even though it was designed to have ribbing on it, and then you end up having it short. Okay, but yeah, totally. You can add length to this. All right, I would just cut it somewhere. I would cut not the jacket, the pattern piece, somewhere by the elbow in the middle, and you can add the length there. And then you can just turn it under and hem it if you want to. I know sometimes people don't like snug things here, or you just want it to be like more open and just kind of stay there, you know, or if you want to taper it off, you can totally do that. Absolutely. Then for the waistband, let's have a look and see what the construction of this is. So the waistband here, this is kind of the things that you have to be thinking about if you start hacking patterns or if you're like designing your own stuff. The jacket is designed to go up to here. Okay. And then you have this added waistband. So a couple things that you'll have to keep in mind, whether you're going to add length, okay, to the panels, the front, the back, you know, the two front and the back panel, are you going to add length to it and have the pocket start down here so that you wouldn't have this kind of little contrasting tab here? Or are you going to keep the project the same as is? Because remember, the pockets are installed on the front panel, so the pockets don't go down all the way to the waistband. So this right here, you need to decide. If you go all the way and extend the front and back panels, then if you install the pocket, it'll be all the way down to here. You might not want that. If you wanted it to still look the same, but without the stretchy ribbing, you could just make the project exactly as is, but the band that goes around here with the ribbing, just make one full band that goes around, but it needs to be long enough because it's not going to be stretched and it's not going to come back. So you would just measure basically the entire back length like this, right? Stretched out. And then you could add this panel to the bottom of it, but so that it's not curving it, so it doesn't bend back and have to stretch, right? So that it just goes down flat. And that way then it's not going to kind of cup your body around here because of the stretch fabric. It'll just kind of lie flat. If that's what you're asking, those are the things that you would need to do to it. But yeah, I don't see why not. All right. And of course, Carla Lisa says she serged it all. Super easy to do if you do have a serger. And I'll share some tips on that in the videos also. Some of you have not started. That's okay. Remember, the classes are there for you. Whenever you have time, whenever you can get around to it, you can always make it. So Cappy says, I bought some scuba for the lined one. Ooh, that's going to be chunky, girl. Scuba on the outside and lined too. Okay. Carla says she's going to post her jacket after this. All right. All right, let's see. We have a question here from Donna. She says, when there's a pattern with stripes, how do you get the zipper to line up better? I have tried 3 times and it's close, but not perfect. So what kind of fabric are you using on the stripe? Because remember, depending on how lightweight the fabric is, you may need to stabilize it a little bit so that you're not slightly stretching those stripes. All right. Tamara says that may be nice in a ponte without the cuff or waistband ribbing with more length, more business casual. That's true. Any of those stable knits like a ponte knit and stuff like that, you can get them in some really nice colors. Like if you're just trying to go for like a more neutral kind of throw over jacket without it having, you know, these crazy floral prints that we've been putting in ours. Okay, Victoria's also asking if we're making a lined version of the jacket, should we size up the outer shell? So this is exactly what I'm going to be talking about in the Friday videos. The answer to that question is yes and no. So it's going to depend on a lot of things, and that's kind of like a super long conversation. So I will be talking about that in the video course that goes up on Friday for the lining version, okay? April says, would it be okay to use a walking foot for the scuba material? So you'll have to try it out on your specific machine and the scuba that you're using. If your sewing machine doesn't have a way for you to loosen up the presser foot pressure level up top so that it's not, basically it's like a lever that adjusts how tight the presser feet, or excuse me, how tight the presser foot is chomping down onto your fabric. If you can adjust that, then you might find that with the walking foot on there, it might be like making marks on the scuba. That can happen when you're working with like the vinyls and some of like those faux vinyls and like, I mean, faux leather type of fabrics. When they're thicker like that, sometimes people will like to use either a Teflon foot or a leather foot so that it kind of glides more, and the teeth from the, because remember a walking foot has feed dogs on top, as well as using the feed dogs under the machine. And that's why it's called a walking foot, because as the feed dogs underneath the fabric pull, as you're sewing forward, the feed dogs underneath the presser foot of the walking foot are also pulling. So like you don't want those little teeth to be making marks in your fabric from the top. Does that make sense? So try it out on a little scrap piece and see if you can adjust the presser foot pressure level on your machine to loosen it so it doesn't chomp down so hard, making those indentations from the presser or from the feed dogs that are in the walking foot, okay? Phyllis is asking, will the lining be difficult to do? What type of fabric do you suggest for the lining? So the lining is not going to be difficult to do, but it has to be done in certain steps. So that's what I'm going to be showing you in that video, in those video lessons that are coming on Friday also. The fabric for the lining, a lot of it is going to be personal preference, and a lot of it will need to be determined based on the fabric that you use for the outer. Okay, for my son's one, which is the one that I'll be doing in the video showing you how to add the lining, we are adding pink, hot pink, stretch velour fabric, which is super soft and cozy to the lining of his jacket. because the stretch velour is puffy and fluffy, it's, you know, like that, those sweatpants and sweatshirt hoodie velour, you know what I'm talking about, that softy kind of velvety stuff. Because it's warm and chunky, okay, it's kind of a medium weight, I sized up on his jacket, okay, because I did use the quilted knit. I used a scuba fabric for the front and then that plush velour on the inside. And so I'll show you all that in the video lesson so that you can see. It's going to be a little bit of trial and error, but there are going to be some tips and tricks that I'll share with you to help you kind of go more the route of a successful results. What I don't want you to end up doing is cutting out the exact size that you want to wear, okay? And then adding a plush lining to the inside. You probably, especially if it doesn't have much stretch, you're not going to be able to do this because it'll be too tight on the inside and the back. You have 2 layers now doubled up plus the seam allowances. So you have to think about that. So if you already are using plush fabrics on the exterior, I would say, let's go towards the side of thinner linings on the inside. You know, a cotton spandex lining like this would be perfect just to give you a light lining on the inside and so that you don't have those raw seams if you don't like the look of the unlined version, right? For those of you that maybe don't want a super duper warm jacket, but you do want it to be lined, I would go with something light in the lining on the inside. And my main thing for me, especially because I kind of have wide shoulders and large arms, I always make sure that I have fabric for the lining that stretches a lot. Like more than the minimum. Remember that the jacket calls for like a teensy little bit? Well, that is only the amount of stretch required for the exterior because the pattern does not include any lining instructions. So you cannot go based off of that little whatever 5 or 10% stretch and think, well, if I choose a fabric for the lining with that little bit of stretch, that should work too. That's not going to be the case, okay? You want it to definitely stretch around your back so that you're not like restricted when you're wearing that lined version. So I would, again, go with something with a ton of stretch. And by a ton, I mean, you know me, I love the super stretchy stuff. 75, I mean, 50% you probably can get away with. 75, 100% stretch, that'd be good. Let's see. Susan says you're so knowledgeable. Wow. Oh, thank you. This is the thing that a lot of this stuff you get just from trying it yourself. And you know how it is that once you make one mistake, you're like, I'm never going to make that mistake again, right? And so it's just years and years of that kind of experience. So when I hear something or somebody says like this fabric and this fabric, it like triggers one of those mess ups that I had. And I'm like, oh, no, you might not want to do that because I did. And I remember what happened. So a lot of it comes from just doing stuff. And this is another reason I like doing these one-off classes because it kind of makes it more manageable for beginners to tackle projects like this in a more bite-sized pieces. And as you remember, I teach very project-based stuff. Even my free tutorials, super project-based. I want you to make the finished project, but as you're making it to get to the end result, I want you to be learning the why you're doing all this stuff because that is what helps you with all your future projects, right? All right, so let's see. Nikki Reed says, I would use a roller foot for scuba. That's a good foot. If you have that specialty foot, it has like a little built-in roller. So instead of feed dogs biting from the top like the walking foot has to feed the fabric through, it just rolls with it through. Great suggestion, Nikki. Thanks. Let's see. Victoria says, since starting this jacket, I'm amazed at how much more I pay attention to the construction of garments in the closet and those sold at stores. Absolutely. Once you start to see, because when you look at the stuff, you don't really know how it comes together. But because you're making it from scratch from the different pieces, you start to see the order of construction and then you can deconstruct those store-bought stuff. Beverly's asking, can I use a sweatshirt fabric for the jacket? Absolutely. Totally can. Remember, as long as it has that minimum stretch and go towards a medium weight fabric, you can do it. Susan's asking if I'm going to Daytona for the AQS show, I'm assuming. I will not be in Daytona, but I think some girlfriends and I and our kids are going to head down to the Lakeland show of the Original Sewing Quilts Expo. I'm not teaching or vending or nothing. We're just going to go down for a day and check it out. I'm going with 2 girlfriends that are just, one of them is kind of a beginning knitter and the other one is knitter. Can you tell I'm obsessed? Is a beginning quilter, and the other one, we're helping her make her first quilt now. So we're going to go down there because I'm like, I don't think you know what like fabric is. Let's take you to this show with all these vendors so you can like blow your mind. It's going to be awesome. Okay, April says, so if you use all scuba, should you just use a light lycra? All scuba on the outside. If you cut the same size that you want the finished jacket to be, I would err to the side of lighter lining. If you already sized up and you live in New York and you're freezing, then you could bump it up to a more medium weight lining if you sized up for a lined jacket. Remember, that's why I wanted y'all to make an unlined version first, so you can understand the construction, wrap your head around how the whole thing came together, and you also that also gives you a base starting line to then say, okay, I want to make more lined, I want to make or another unlined, or make a lined jacket, reversible, and then go from there. Okay, by minimizing the steps in making an unlined version, and once you make it, you're like, that's it. This is all it took. Oh, I could totally make this again and again. All right. Tamara says double brush poly would be good for lining. Absolutely. This is double brush polyester spandex. And let me see if I have a chunk here for those of you that maybe are not familiar. It's a fabric that I talk about a lot in my Westchester Dolman Top series of videos, like the free video lessons for it. So if you want to check that out, definitely you can just do a search for Westchester Dolman Top in my on my YouTube channel. But I'll show y'all a chunk here so you can let me grab some. I'm trying not to grab black because you can't really see it, you know? All right. I have a blue. Let's try this. So here, I'll show y'all the difference because it's always good to compare it to something else. Here, Carla, look at the shirt, the fabric. So this is, remember I was just talking about the Westchester Dolman Top earlier, about that orange and blue fabric. You see, it's not gray. It's like it doesn't show up. It looks gray on camera, but it's like a pale blue. So this is the fabric that I used to make that Westchester Dolman Top. And I mentioned, this is a Carolyn Friedlander print. It's called Flame or something like that. It's from her Blake collection, but this specific colorway, I think it's called Flame or something like that. Anyways, it's like an orange and blue. And so this is cotton spandex, I said. So 95% cotton, 5% spandex. This would be a cool lining. Okay? It's lightweight, has good stretch return, vibrant colors, and cotton spandex, you can find it in a gazillion different prints. So if you're going for something more modest and muted as far as the exterior fabric, give yourself a little pop of that funky color and print on the inside with cotton spandex, because, you know, similar to quilting cottons that you can find in every kind of colorway, you can do it with that. So this is double brush poly, and you'll find it named DBP. This is, look how much it stretches. This one right here, you will not have no problem stretching across the back for a lining. It is 95% polyester and 5% spandex. Look at that. Okay? And you can see that it stretches a ton in both directions. This is that way. And this is this way. This is obviously the crosswise grain because it goes a ton. So something like this, and it's super lightweight. It's nice. And actually, the leggings I'm wearing here, I made using DBP. So yeah, they're just like little capri, comfy, be-at-home pants. So that's double brush poly, and that would be a great option for the lining, okay? Let's see. All right. Carla says, I sew an arm to the neck opening. Can you believe it's the same length? What do you mean? You sewed an arm to the neck opening? Girl, I am lost. I have no idea what you're talking about. All right. Oh, Susan says she saw me years ago at the OSQE show, the one in Lakeland. And she's like, you seem so surprised that I knew you. I know, you know, we're just... I walk around regular, but then I forget sometimes that I'm at these shows where now you've taken the regular society people and have narrowed it down to specifically quilters and crafters, who now I'm highly increasing my chances of somebody who knows me, right? Because it's kind of like that world of online stuff. But I always forget, like when I'm just out regular and people are like, oh my God, are you the... And I'm like, huh, what? Oh yeah, that's right. I am the Crafty Gemini. Sorry, forgot. I'm not on Crafty Gemini mode right now. You know, like, that's funny. All right. Did you get the double zippers in yet? The double zippers. You mean the reversible ones? Oh no, we just mentioned that. I talked about that a little bit earlier. So let's see. Okay, so good to hear about the different fiber content. I will be sharing that as well because in the Friday video with the lining, remember I'm using quilted knit, which we had in our kits, the faux denim looking one. Then I'm using scuba, and I'm using French terry, stretch velour for the lining. So that will also give you an idea as far as different weights and different fabrics and how it looks in my finished jacket that I'm making for my son. Okay, so we'll talk about how many sizes I sized up and why, right? And what the lining is, how much stretch the lining has compared to the exterior fabrics and all that stuff. All right. So that's that. Now, for those of you that also finished your jackets, go ahead and let me know what kind of ribbing did you end up going with. Did anybody use DBP like I mentioned I used in the one-lined jacket that I made for myself? I'll show you all that again. Remember, this is the same as this fabric that I stretched for you, the same as the little legging pants that I'm wearing here. And let me grab the jacket real quick. This is my lined jacket. And you remember that I said I used DBP. Yeah, Chris says she used DBP. Joanne says. Carla, I'm changing your name to Joanne's because that's where you get everything. Carla Joanne says she used the cotton spandex from Joanne's. So I used a double brush poly, and I remember telling y'all this, that I used a double brush poly that even though it wasn't more in the medium weight range of the stretch knits that we use for the exterior, like the Liverpool, and the Liverpool I also use for the lining, but because, excuse me, in the collar and the ribbing and the waistband, remember that it's doubled up, it made it more like a regular weight knit instead of just being one layer of double brush poly, because you can see that it's pretty thin just based on how the sheerness of it is when it's stretched, right? And so that's how I was saying that that is another great choice because it has a ton of stretch. And you have to stretch it and check it using the technique I showed you in the beginning lessons of the video course, because not all DBP stretches the same. Remember I said this, just because it says it has, 95% some kind of fiber content and 5% spandex does not mean it's going to automatically have the same amount of stretch. All right. So you have to check that and make sure that it'll be something that you're able to work with. And then I did black DBP here. Okay. For the sleeve cuffs too. All right. Kalisha says she has I'm guessing it's a way matte solid 4-way stretch. I don't know if there's a typo in some kind of matte solid fabric 4-way stretch. Okay. Audrey says, I finally saw some quilted knits this morning at a local store here in Ontario. It wasn't on the shelf yet since they hadn't priced it, but she'll check back. Carla with a coupon for sure. Carla Joanne. All right. Audrey says they have quilted knits at Fabricland right now on clearance section, mainly neon colors, but also navy. Okay. So I think we've been on here for almost 45 minutes. We had a lot of good questions today. Thank you. That was really, really good. So we talked about the ribbing. Definitely. Let me give you a suggestion. For those of you that are on the Facebook group for the jacket class and for sewing clothes in general, that's going to be the group for that. If you make a jacket and you post a picture, go ahead and let us know what fabrics you use, because when we look at the pictures, I think that oftentimes helps people to make up their mind too. You can say, hey, I used Liverpool and scuba for the exterior. I used the whatever for the lining, or no lining, or whatever you ended up using for the ribbing. Just give us a little description there, because I think going forward, when people go back to search, that's really going to help so they can see kind of how it looks in a finished jacket without having to make it already themselves and run that experiment. Okay. All right. So April says, I'm not sure what I use because the people at the fabric store I go to don't even know how to sew. So asking detailed questions is stressful. Oh my gosh. That sounds like every store in the garment district in New York. Some of those places just like, we have fabric for sale. Do you know anything about the fabric? I have known nothing about the fabric, but I'm selling it. Like that's how it was in LA. A lot of the fabrics that I got in the fashion district, those guys don't sew. They don't even know what they have. It's just like stretchy fabrics and they'll hand me stuff. I'm like, that don't stretch. I said stretchy fabrics. So I feel your pain. I feel your pain. All right. Okay. She says, I live in New York. Yeah, it's hard, especially like those spots that you just like walk into the store and there's just fabric everywhere. It's not like when you walk into a quilt shop where you're like, everything is labeled and here are the novelty prints and batiks are in this corner. When you go to fashion districts, it's like every man for themselves, grab what you can. I don't know the fiber content. I don't know if it's gonna fall apart when you wash it. I don't know nothing. Just grab it and go. That's hilarious. But sometimes it's worth it. For $1 a yard, I'll take the risk. All right. April says, we're the fashion district of the world houseway. Yeah, it happens, girl. It happens. I've talked to CEOs of huge fabric companies and they don't even know how to sew. Like, I would think that for me, like any product I sell, like I have to use it. I have to know, because how else can you talk about it? How else can you explain it? How else can you see the pros and cons or find a niche where you're like, this is what people that are making this absolutely need because it works. It's a madhouse. But all right, let's go ahead and finish up here. We had some excellent, excellent questions. This was super fun. I think I'm going to be doing a pop-in live chat that's not part of the schedule stuff for this class, because it's not going to be kind of exclusive to the class members, but we are going to talk a little bit more about like garment sewing, and I'll do that live one. It'll probably be like more impromptu in our Facebook group. So if you're in the Facebook group, then you can look out for that. If you're signed up for notifications from the group, you should get a notification on your phone. But I recently got a new live streaming camera system. This is still the regular one, but we're setting it up and getting everything situated. So going forward, we'll have a totally different setup that's going to be super cool. And I'm going to play with that on the Facebook page for the Sewing Clothes with the Crafty Gemini one. So that'll be like an extra bonus live chat that I'll do in there. And then let's do our giveaway. So for the giveaway, go ahead and enter here on the chat. So there's going to be two. We're going to do one giveaway for those of you that are live right now, and then one for all the Bomber Jacket class students at large. So it doesn't matter. If you're watching the recording, you still have an opportunity to win. All right. So this is going to be the prize, and we're giving away two identical prizes. It's going to be 1 yard of my blue quilted knit. So you can use it for the front and back, or you can use it for the pockets and sleeves and still have leftover of the royal blue with a matching royal blue zipper, the 22-inch one. It's not a reversible, but it's just a regular 22-inch zipper. But this is one of the colored zippers that we've gotten in. So we're going to do a yard of that and one matching zipper so that you can match, okay, that to that. So we have two prizes like that to give away. 1 and 1. So for the live chat, those of you watching right now, go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know what is the most scariest or intimidating part of making the bomber jacket for you. Whether or not you've made the jacket yet, if you've watched the videos, or if you've even looked through the pattern, what is the part of making this jacket that you thought was going to be the most intimidating, or that you did, if you've already made the jacket, that you thought was like the hardest part of it? Go ahead and leave me that comment below. I'll wait a minute or so, and then I'll scroll through, pick a winner, and then that winner will need to email B, that's BEA, at craftygemini.com, and let us know. Just say, hey, I won the giveaway. I won a yard of blue quilted fabric with a blue zipper. Okay, let us know what it is, because B is not watching the live chat and doesn't know what I'm giving away. All right, so let's see. The welted pockets. Really, Susan, did you find that it was like easy after the fact? There's just a lot of steps. And remember, I kept doing it in the video. I was like, they're going to hate me by the end of this, because I keep saying like, make sure that it's mirror image and that you're doing this. But I didn't want people to mess up and, you know, install those pockets backwards, because it's easy to do. Carla says doing the zipper aligned, but it was easy with your explanations. Awesome, awesome to hear it. The zipper was the hardest. The welt pocket was the most intimidating. Thinking I was doing it backwards. Exactly. See, all that kind of pretty side to pretty side and flip and whatever. And because of the genius construction of that pocket, it was even trickier, because you can't anticipate what the next step was going to be, right? Until you did it. Follow the videos and then be like, ta-da. I did it. Cutting out the material. That's an interesting one. Heather says getting the ribbing fabric. Victoria says the scariest part of making the bomber jacket is actually the pockets and worrying that I will cut the notches too big. Oh, that's a good one. It's true, because if you don't make little snips, you can go further in. Susan says, yes, my friends could not believe I did it. I'm so proud of you, girl. Give yourself a high five. Awesome. Tracing the pattern. Interesting. Tamara says, you made the pockets and zipper easy. I tried. I'm glad it worked. Once I start seeing people posting jackets and I'm not getting a ton of emails of people saying, there's no way, I can't do it, I'm stuck on this, I'm stuck on that, then I'm like, yes. Even though the videos were super long, they worked. Oh, Elizabeth says she hasn't started yet, but she would have to say that tracing the pattern is holding me back. You can totally do it. If you stop, give yourself 30 minutes to do it, and I think you'll be surprised when you see that you trace it all out in less than that time. Remember, it's only 8 pieces. And a couple of them are super little because they're just squares. They're rectangles, you know? The cuff bands, whatever, it's just like a little bloop bloop. The waistband is just a rectangle. Those are super easy to trace out. There's only 8 pieces total. If you can get past that, I think you're going to have a blast making the jacket. April says, I forgot a notch and thought I was going to die. Girl, that's the funniest thing I've heard all day. And that is so real because if you don't have the experience making the garment, you don't know how important the notches and guidelines and marks are or how important they're not, right? Some of this stuff we could have gotten away without any of the notches. It's just so that you don't mess up, okay? And think, I would say the parts that is like absolutely crucial is when you have the front of a garment and the back, or say it's a sleeve that needs to go in front to back. This is outerwear. So you remember that the notch was split exactly at the middle. So even if you didn't have the notch, if you've done enough sewing to know, hey, okay, this needs to be lined up perfectly in the middle. Let me just fold my sleeve in half and mark it and match it with the shoulder seam. In this case, it wasn't the shoulder seam, remember, though, because we had the dropped forward seam, so it was at that seam. But anyways, if you don't know that the notch, what it's for exactly, then you don't know, oh, if I'm missing it, there's, I can't make the project. Or if I missed one, that's okay. That's all right. So see, a couple of you say that you missed notches too, and you had to go back with the pattern to get them. And it's easy enough to do, right? As long as you get it somewhere in that range, because sometimes you'll come across 2 pieces that you're sewing and it's slightly off, but oh, okay, at least it's 1 notch matching 1 notch. At least I'm in the right place. Let me just pull on this one a little bit to stretch it and make it reach, and just keep it going. Don't let little things like that stop you. They're just, guidelines and reference points to catch you as you're going, okay? April says, good thing I'm a paper crafter first. I was able to precisely measure it and add it perfectly. Good for you. That's awesome. Joanne's has the gray fabric you use for Juice's jacket. I love it. My fabric is cut out except the ribbing. Can't wait to get started. Yes, that's what Deb says. It's a scuba fabric that's gray on one side and black on the other, and you could really use either side. I thought he was going to pick the black side, but he wanted the gray side, so I think that's what I used to make that one. You can do it. Let's see. The tracing paper, there's so many different kinds. I use the Bosel one. It's called Create a Pattern. I get it off of Amazon. You can just get it on there. And I think on the main class page, I linked to that too. Or under the video on the tracing, somewhere there. I mentioned that and put the link for it too. But just type in sewing tracing paper on Amazon and you can find a bunch of different stuff. See what the width is and see whatever is most affordable, All right. Okay. So we got all these entries. Let me scroll. I'm going to go to the bottom and then I'm going to go. All right. And the winner is Fran. Hi, Fran. Fran Mitchum says the Welt Pocket. You are the winner of a yard of blue quilted fabric with a blue zip. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So that's for you. And then if you're watching the recording, we'll email you, so make sure that you check your emails and check your spam. If you get my emails already, then it should go to your regular inbox. If you've never gotten an email from me, which would be really, really weird because you're in one of my classes, then check your spam folder, okay? So congratulations, Fran. Go ahead and email BEA at craftygemini.com. I'm sure you're well-versed with that email address by now. And let them know that you won the giveaway tonight of the blue quilted knit with the blue zip, okay? So awesome. That was super duper fun. Wow, well, you guys, we've been on here for almost an hour. We had a ton of people tune in today, so this was really great. And I'm going to end it with that. The video lessons on the lined version will be posted on Friday, so check back then. I will, again, as usual, I'll send out an email and I'll post it in the Facebook group letting you know when the stuff is posted. All right? So thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. That was super fun. I had a good time. Yay. All right. Thanks again, everybody. And have fun. For those of you heading to QuiltCon, post pictures so I can follow you on social media. If you don't know what QuiltCon is and you want to see what the hype is about, do a search on Instagram for QuiltCon and you'll see a bunch of fun stuff. All right. Bye, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you're in the US and you don't have to work tomorrow, enjoy your holiday. Bye.